What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Dancers or Athletes Do podcast, where we discuss the athletic aspects of dancing. I'm your host, Slim B. In this episode, we have as guest Elena Smith. Elena, how are you doing?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm super happy to have you on the show. You're one of the first guests who will talk about a specific topic that we haven't discussed before, actually. But before we dive into that, can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, sure. My name is Elena Smith. I am a graduating senior at the University of Texas at Austin, and I was a 4-year member of the dance team there. And this last year, I was the captain of the team.
Great. So you're part of the dance team. Have you danced before joining the dance team, or can you maybe guide us a little bit through your journey of dancing from the beginning till now?
Yeah, sure. That's a long journey. I started dancing when I was 4. I think I had some friends in preschool who were like taking dance classes, and my mom put me in dance classes. I think I started really simple with like ballet and tap. And then at age 7, I joined our studio's like performance team and did that for a while. So I was getting more involved and taking more classes. And then at age 12, I started competing, and I competed through junior high and high school. And I trained in, it's a pretty wide array. I feel like, ballet, tap, jazz, modern, lyrical, acrobatics. Yeah, just kind of hip hop, anything that kind of came up. I was just kind of thrown into it. And then in my senior year of high school, I was considering where I wanted to go to college and if I wanted to continue dancing or not. And I was really interested in going to the University of Texas, mostly for their academic curriculum more so than their dance team. There are people that look specifically at the dance teams when they're picking a college, but my focus was on the curriculum and the program that I wanted to go into. And so I was pretty set on UT, but luckily they had a dance team, and I ended up trying out the end of my senior year and made it, and re-auditioned every year that I was on the team and stayed for the 4 years I was at university. So
yeah, okay. So you really started at a young age.
Yeah, really young. Yeah.
With dancing. Yeah, you mentioned the university team. Can you explain a little bit in general what it is? Because from where I am, which is Belgium, which is in Europe, this is not something that common. You might have a dance team, but not in the extent as you have it in the States.
Yeah. It's it's kind of its whole monster, I feel like, in the US. Dance, I feel like, especially has blown up a lot in the last 10 years in the United States. But I feel like, just in a nutshell, a college dance team in general is a squad of, I would say, 15 to 30, 35 dancers that act as student representatives and ambassadors for the university. And, in the States, American football is like our huge sporting event here. And so dance teams, collegiate dance teams, mostly dance in support of athletic teams and athletic programs at half times, and, participate in crowd engagement. But then in addition, they just perform at, events around campus and for events that other student organizations are hosting, or alumni events or fundraising activities that the university is participating in. Yeah, I think they just kind of act generally as student ambassadors and, facilitators of school spirit, because colleges and universities in the US are very focused on like their school and their sense of like school spirit and school pride. And I feel like the dance team is one of the ways that they put like a face on that sentiment, I feel like.
So, yeah, you mentioned a lot of different things. Do you also do shows, for example, where you say we have a performance, not just, how should I say it, in support of a football team, but let's say we have a show of 1 hour and people come to the theater and watch us do or dance or hold show? Is that also part of something that you do?
Yeah, so I feel like that's really common for teams as well, to have like a showcase or a concert. It's a big deal for our team. Before the Christmas holidays, we put on a pretty big show, and I really love it because it's comprised of all team members' choreography, which is kind of fun, instead of like, really specific dance team type style, that's really clean and doesn't have a lot of stylistic elements in it to really like focus on the synchronization elements that everybody wants to see from a big college dance squad. But our winter show focuses on like, I feel like more the artistry aspect of dance as opposed to like the athletic element that we kind of focus on the rest of the year. So we put on a big show, and it's student choreography, and it's all different styles, which is really fun. And we ask other student organizations that dance on campus to like show up and act as like fillers and also participate in our performances. And then we usually put a couple of pieces in their shows, and it's kind of a fun way
Hmm.
to get to participate in other people's shows besides just our own. So that's kind of a fun campus engagement. But yeah, we do definitely do a big show, and I feel like that's common for dance teams. At some point they do kind of their own big concert to showcase like what their team does as opposed to just dancing and support for other teams.
Yeah. And you said something that in the show you then do also other styles. When you dance as a university dance team, do you brand it as a specific style? Is it something like cheerleading? Is it close to that, or is it something different? Or it depends on the team itself, maybe the coach that determines we're gonna go a little bit more in that direction.
Yeah, I think it definitely depends on the team and the program. Um,
Hmm.
I think what's really interesting, you mentioned cheerleading. Our dance team at the University of Texas, our competitive dance team does not dance at sporting events and athletic games. We focus solely on dancing for student organization type events around campus. And then we have our show, and then we compete at NDA Nationals in Daytona Beach, Florida in the spring. The University of Texas does have a pom squad that dances at football games and athletic events, but those are two separate teams. In the US,
Hmm.
most universities, that's combined into one squad. So I feel like those squads that are a more combined type element, they do a lot more pom dancing with, like pom poms and to
Yeah,
be able
yeah.
to be seen, from like the, 50th step up from, at a football stadium or
Hmm.
something. But yeah, I feel like it definitely depends on the team. Our team particularly doesn't do a lot of pom dancing. So I feel like in the last few years, especially when we do kind of like performances around campus, we do a lot of hip hop just because you never know where you're going to be dancing on. You could be dancing on like a concrete slab somewhere, and like you don't really want to be in jazz shoes trying to whip out a triple turn on, concrete. So we just feel like it's also just a little more crowd pleasing. We feel like hip hop than like people who aren't dancers watching a jazz dance are kind of like, oh, that's nice, but like hip hop is just a little bit more fun and crowd engaging. So when we're doing that, I feel like we definitely participate in using a hip hop routine a little bit more. But when we're
Hmm.
going to do our show and stuff, I think there's a lot more contemporary because the dancers on our team are all very trained, classically trained
Yeah.
dancers. So we want to give them an opportunity to showcase their talent and their training and stuff too. But I think that the style thing really depends on the team and the event that you're dancing at.
Hmm.
But when we like our competition routines are very different. We take a jazz routine and a hip hop routine. And the jazz routine to me is not like classical jazz, not really. It's
Hmm.
honestly more lyrical. I feel like there's a trend recently to move for college dance teams moving more towards incorporating more like modern stylistic elements into their like jazz routine at nationals. But yeah, it's kind of its own weird style. I feel like the jazz style, quote unquote jazz style that we take to nationals is kind of its own interesting thing because there's an immense amount of synchronization, but you want as many like tricks and
Hmm.
impressive elements and jumps, but there's also huge turn sections, which I feel like the dance world recently has kind of gotten away from like, let's like set up and do a big turn section, but that's still kind of a thing in American collegiate dance, at least at nationals. So yeah, I feel like those are all kind of different specific styles that it kind of just depends on where we are and what we're doing. And it also depends on the program, I think.
Yeah. You already mentioned that most of the dancers are classically trained.
Mhm.
Is that a requirement? You also mentioned like auditioning. So I assume you have your auditions, but do you need like to be able to do certain movements like all the specific things in ballet or jazz maybe if you're classically trained? And yeah, how does that work exactly to become part of the team?
Yeah, so we have a rule that like you don't have to provide, any proof of like I trained at this specific place in this specific
Hmm.
style for
Hmm.
this many years. Like it's not a specific requirement. We just have, a specific standard. And we have a list that we send out, like in our audition packet of, you need to be able to do all of these skills and you need to be
Yeah,
able to do
I
all
saw
of
the.
these turns. Yeah, and it's very listed out. Yeah, it's pretty extensive.
Yeah, I was like, oh damn.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive for sure. Yeah, so we have a list that we put out there, but like we don't say you have to have, 10 years of experience to join this team.
Hmm.
You just have to be able to prove that you can do all of those elements in our open audition process. It's just an open call. The only thing is you do have to be accepted to the university to try out, but beyond that, it's an
Yeah,
open call. It's co-ed and anyone can try if they want to.
yeah, and because you mentioned you also do like hip hop pieces. Let's, for example, a person sees you at an event, maybe a person who in the future will go to like the University of Texas, and they see that you do hip hop, but can they do audition then too if they're only into hip hop, or is that then more difficult considering the list of movements that they need to be able to do?
Yeah, we expect all of our members to be able to do everything that we require in all styles.
Mm.
Um, you know,
Ah, okay.
our team focuses on jazz and hip hop particularly, but you couldn't walk into our team and be like, "Hey, I'm a really strong hip hop dancer, but I have no jazz training." We'd be like,
Hmm.
"So sorry, and probably not the
Yeah,
spot for you then."
yeah, then it's gonna be a little bit hard to catch up with the classical parts. Okay, so you mentioned a little bit the competitions and also that like to be in sync between the different dances is really important.
Yeah.
So that brings me to our question: how are the teams then actually scored if you go to a competition besides synchronicity? What else is there that people
Wow.
look at? Because I guess it's with judges. I guess it's the panel of judges that will make a ranking or like give scores, and then at the end you get the person with the highest or the team with the highest points will take away the trophy.
Yeah, so they have. You're right. It's a panel of judges, and I'm
Hmm.
talking mostly about NDA, and I think UDA is very similar, right? Because both of those competitions are owned by the corporation Varsity, so I feel like it's pretty similar among the two. But yeah, I think it's it's a. I've seen the score sheets, and they're just immense amount of lists. Like, there's it's a predetermined number of points you can get in a specific category. So there's
Hmm.
like choreography and styling and costuming and music and formations and presence and technique ability and synchronicity and all of those things. It's a very long, extensive list. And sometimes at competition it comes down to first and second place come down to 100th of a point or something. So it's very intense and it's very harsh judging, but it's very
Hmm.
subjective too, which I think is something that always makes dance difficult, right? Because it's like a subjective
Yeah,
thing
yeah, of
all the
course.
time. But yeah, it just differs from year to year what kind of routine is going to win, or who's going to end up in
Hmm.
top 10 or whatever. But yeah, the judging is pretty intense, and they have a pretty extensive score sheet that they follow. Yeah, in all kinds of just aspects of the entire routine as a whole.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit earlier like UDA and varsity. Could you maybe explain that? Because I think like on our side of the ocean, it's not that
Right.
that common or known.
Yeah, so Varsity is a big corporation in the
Hmm.
United States, and they have their hand in a lot of different pots. I feel like in dance, they own a lot of different kinds of things. They provide a lot of the uniforms and costuming for a lot of high school and collegiate teams. They make these like beautiful custom uniforms, and I feel like that's a really common place to get them in the U.S. And they also put on competitions. So they own kind of two subsets of competitions. One is
Hmm.
UDA, and then one is NDA, and they're different but similar. And it just kind of depends on each individual program which one you're going to go to. And yeah, at least in collegiate dance, those are kind of the two bit. If you want to go compete at nationals and show up in a national type sense at a big competition, that's kind of your only two options are NDA and UDA. Huge competitions. So many teams go. It's kind of overwhelming to be at one of those events. They go on for days. They also put on the same kinds of competitions for cheer squads too. So, and it all happens at the
Hmm.
same time. So it's an immense amount of people and an immense amount of teams and an immense amount of dancing and cheering going on. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, it's just Varsity just happens to own the two biggest. I feel like, yeah, national competitions for collegiate level dancers. High school dancers have more options, right? There's more like smaller companies that own
Hmm.
competitions for high school dance teams to compete at. But college, it's kind of, you might have like a regional competition that you go to. We have one that we go to that's kind of smaller and regional. It's in Texas, and just a smaller number of teams go. But yeah, if you want to go compete big nationally, you're probably going to end up at UDA or NDA if you're on a collegiate dance team.
Yeah. So you participate nationally, I assume,
Mhm.
with the dance
Yeah,
team. So that's across the whole of the US, right?
yeah,
Or
yeah, it is. Kind of feel like UDA and NDA kind of split. It's maybe like
hmm
half the country and half the country. And obviously, not every school in America is like going to these things, but it's
yeah, yeah, of
still a
course.
lot. And you have your different divisions, and based on your school size and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, my team, because the University of Texas at Austin is a huge school, 50,000 kids go to that school. And we
Hmm.
have a big
Hmm.
football program, and we're, one of the biggest universities in the state of Texas. We're a big school and a big program. So when we go to nationals and we compete in the D1A category, which is kind of the biggest schools. So, and there's all different kinds of divisions. But yeah, when we go, we compete against other really, really big schools.
Yeah. So the D1A, it's like Division 1 and Division 2. It's
Yeah, there's
basically
like
the same as the athletes.
yeah, it's the same as the
Yeah.
athletic designation for like football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So D1 is then the highest, I assume. Is the
D1A.
highest division?
Yeah,
Is the highest
D1A is the
division you can
highest,
have.
and
Yeah.
then I think it's D1, and then D2 and D3, and then I think there's
Hmm.
like some kind of smaller division that's kind of a special case type division, but yeah, they kind of step up in that order.
Yeah. And is it when you do a competition, is it one competition at a time, or do you have like a ranking where you see at the end of the year all the competitions combined, and when you have one like first place, second place at the one, and then you have a ranking at the end, or is
Yeah,
it
it's
really like competition per competition?
so NDA Nationals hosts one competition in April every year.
Hmm.
And like that's the big end all be all. And all the divisions go at the same time, the same week. Like you miss a week of school and you go to Florida. And
Yeah.
they separate it a little bit by like division so that the judges can be in the right mindset. Like, okay, we're watching all of the D1, jazz dances right now, so they can like have an easier comparison to watch.
Hmm.
So it's not, just frantic and crazy, but yeah, it's a packed week and it all happens at the same time.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So there's a lot going on. If you say like a whole
Yes.
week for
Yes.
competition, it's always
Yes.
in this same spot. It's always in Florida, or that depends
Yeah,
on
so
the year.
NDA hosts theirs in April in Daytona Beach, Florida, and
Hmm.
UDA hosts theirs right after the Christmas holidays. I think right at the beginning of the new year in Orlando. So it's also in Florida,
Yeah.
but it's yeah
Oh,
separate, two
Florida.
separate things. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And coming back to your specific dance team,
Mhm.
so who is part of it, in the sense like, is it a lot of first years, second years, third years, fourth years, or is it a little bit evenly split between the different years when
We
it
always
comes to the
have
dancers?
Yeah, we always have a lot of freshmen. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
people right out of high school that have been dancing their whole lives are really excited to keep dancing, and they don't want to close that door yet. So they'll kind of do anything they
Yeah.
can to continue doing it, right? Because in dance, it takes
Mm-hmm.
forever to get any good. So they're like, why would I give it up? Um, we always have a lot of freshmen. The thing about UT is that the academics are so incredibly rigorous, and there are only 24 hours in a day. So I feel like as team members get older, sometimes after a year or 2 years, they're like, I just don't have time for this anymore. I have a part-time job. I'm in two clubs. I'm in a social group. I'm also pre-med biology. Like I don't have time to like go to dance practice. I just don't. So sometimes it's a really sad thing because it's not like a malicious thing or like they want to end their time. It's really hard when they don't want to end their time. It's more just like there's just not enough time in the day to get it all done. It's too Everything
Yeah,
at
yeah.
UT is so competitive. So you really got to stay on top of your stuff if you're looking for to continue to go to school, post grad. If you're trying to get into a specific graduate program or medical school,
Mhm.
there's so many things you have to do while you're in college at university to stay on track to be competitive, come post grad that, yeah, sometimes something like dance team, even though you love it, might fall to the bottom of that barrel, unfortunately. So I feel like we have
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
freshmen always, and then just as it goes up, there's just like less and less. Like I think I was one of three seniors this year, so it was pretty small.
Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah.
indeed pretty
Mhm.
small. And when it comes to managing the team, who does that? Is that you as team captain? Is that somebody else? Is that a coach?
Yeah. So most teams, this is another way that the University of Texas dance team is very unique. Other teams, right, they have a full time coach who is paid full time by the
Mhm.
university, and they handle all of the in practice stuff, right, all of the actual dancing, but they also handle all of the administration. All the administrative stuff, being a liaison for, the university, being a point of contact on, registering for competitions, or making, if you have a performance, making sure your music gets there, all of those things.
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
so our team, we do not do that. Our team is student run. So it's run by, we have an officer line, and we kind of divvy up jobs to take some of the pressure off, one person having to do like what would be a full-time paid job, right? We have a coach, and she's wonderful, and we're very blessed to have her, but she, by university rules, is not allowed to handle any of our administrative work for us. So as students, we
Mhm.
do all of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, as students, that's like a little bit overwhelming. It's kind of a weird spot to be in. Like when our coach is in practice, she's in charge, and like we listen to her and we do what she says, and she's the person in charge in the room. But it's also weird, like for me as captain this year at 21 years old, like I have the power to like fire our coach. And we never would with this coach because we adore her and we love her. But in the past, like I know that
Yeah.
I have friends who have been captain in the past, and like they had to terminate their relationship with their coach. And like that's a really weird thing to do when you look at all the other teams, and that is not how it works.
Mhm.
So yeah, our team's very interesting in the fact that we run it ourselves. And that definitely presents some challenges for sure, makes it a little bit hard in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Because as captain, like you're trying to, juggle being like in a space where you can be a good dancer and a good competitor and a good performer, right? Like everybody else on the team is, but you're also worried about like, did I turn in this form, and did I send that check out, and did I make sure that so and so got our music? And like you're also walking that weird line. So it's stressful, but luckily we have a good officer line that divvies up some of that work, and we get it all done.
Mhm.
And we have a good supervisor at the university under the recreational sports department that we reach out to, and he helps us with any questions or anything that we have going on or need some guidance on. He's always around and down to help us, and he's great and knows what he's doing, so we appreciate him. So it's definitely a group effort, but it's a little bit weird in that fact, but at the same time I think it's really awesome for us because the people, right, the members that like put in the most work to the team, the dancers, that put in the blood
Mhm.
and work and sweat and tears, like they also get the most say in the team. We get to run it the way that we
Yeah.
want to run it. We get to participate in what we want to participate in. Whereas I feel like other programs where they're, you know um, completely, at the mercy of whatever their coach decides, they have way less, say in anything that they do.
Mhm.
So it's definitely like a pros and cons type list, I think, for both situations. But it's definitely a little different at the University of Texas for sure.
Yeah. You also already mentioned that some of the things that you then do or other dancers do, but you specific as a captain, what would you say? These are my tasks that are different from the others, and that's why I'm captain and not anybody else.
um so I ended up being captain because when I started out as a freshman, there were like five other girls that were in my freshman class that were my
Mhm.
age. And then the next year, I think there were like two or three of us. And then going into my junior year, I was the only one. And so we have a rule
Mhm.
on our team because the captain job is so encompassing. It's more like being the coach, that you have to have been the co-captain the year before you're the captain, so that there's at least some essence of training, so you know kind of what's going on, so that you can run the team when you're the captain. So I was coming into my junior year, and I kind of looked around, and there was nobody else but me my age to like step up to do it. So it was kind of more of a like I was kind of the only one there left holding the
Mhm.
bag was kind of the thing more so than anything. But yeah, so that's kind of how I ended up being captain. I feel like our team is really, really awesome in the fact that we're not super competitive with one another. There's not like a lot of interfighting or anything like that. So I
Yeah,
know in
yeah.
some teams there could be like a big like, all out brawl to like I'm going to be captain and I'm going to be in charge and that kind of stuff. And our team is more like who can do it, who has the time, who has the skill set to be able to handle it, almost to a fault. And it's like that in practice too. If we're like working on a routine or something, I feel like I've been on teams in the past where like you will fight someone to like be center spot in the
Mhm.
front. And this team is more like I can't do that. Will you put me in the back? Like it's almost more like that to a fault. So I think we're really lucky that we have that team dynamic where we don't do a lot of like inner fighting and inner competitiveness. So it wasn't that I beat a bunch of people to out to be the captain. It was just kind of, I was the one there.
Yeah, so almost a necessity that you did it
Right.
instead of someone else.
Yeah, very much so. It was kind of like, well, I guess if we want to have a team next year, I guess I better buck up and do it.
Yeah, to circle back about combining dancing and studying, and also to say like, yeah, some people drop off as they get older because they get more busy
Mhm.
with classes, like you say, pre-med, all these different things. So how does an average day or week look like? Actually, you have probably your classes in the morning, maybe training in the afternoon or evening. Can you like guide us through
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I'll give you an example, I think, from my sophomore year. So I didn't have a job my freshman year. I was a pre-law student, so I'm going to law school next year. So I was also doing like pre-law studies and trying to have a pre-law internship job that I was trying to balance while going to school and being on the team. So um
Hmm.
my sophomore year I had a job. So I we also when we're training, we also have one mandatory workout, like lift session, weight session, endurance session, whatever it is, to go to every week. We are kind of interesting in the fact that we don't mandate that it be the full team at the same time because we know that everyone on our team is so busy that that's not really
Hmm.
something that
Hmm.
works for our team. So we set up like three different times during the week that team members can go. So it'll be like smaller groups and it's kind of led by
Yeah.
one particular officer. But it's the same workout and everybody does it. And then, some teams they might work out three times a week, all together on top of their, regular training schedule. We
Hmm.
just don't do that. But, we do expect that, you have one in person training session, one lift session every week, but you're expected to do extra cardio and extra working out on your own. You got to fit it into your own schedule because, it's very evident, right, in practice who's doing that extra working out and who's not. Anyway, so that's kind of a little preface. But yeah, so sophomore year, I would like the only workout that I could make it to that week, that particular semester with my class schedule was to go at like 6 a.m. to the gym to the training session on Tuesday mornings.
Hmm.
So I'm like up
Yeah.
at 5:15 or something and get to the gym. The workout, the lift session's about an hour. And then I'd like run home, take a shower, eat really quick, be back on campus. I think I had class from like 8:30 to 10, my first class. And then I had a
Hmm.
little break, I think. And then I had class and then I would run and eat something and do some studying, maybe at like one of our libraries on campus instead of going all the way home. And then I would go to class from 12 to 1. And then I had to
Hmm.
be at work at 2. So I worked not far from campus. I would walk there, but from campus, it's like a 25-minute walk. So I would change in a bathroom really fast at campus, and then I'd rush down to work. And I think I worked from 2 to 5, and I'd get off work
Hmm.
and go home. We have practice at 8 o'clock. So I would run home and eat a quick dinner, like a light dinner, because I'm kind of one of those people. If I have to do full outs on anything but an empty stomach, I'm going to vomit in the corner. So a very light and quick dinner, and I would try to cram in some studying before I had to, jump in a carpool with some of my teammates and go to the rec center, which is our training facility. And we
Hmm.
have practice from 8 to 10. I would usually try to get there a little bit early to do some muscle recovery, maybe some rolling out, maybe some, before warm up stretching, just something to like get going. And then we have practice from 8 to 10, which feels really short. Like I kind of can't believe that we have our practices like feel so short, but they're so intense and we do so much in a short amount of time that, you're exhausted by 10 o'clock. And so get out at 10, go home. If I have more homework to do, you have more homework to do. That's usually true for University of Texas students. If it's till midnight or 1 o'clock, it is what it is. But I would usually
Hmm.
try to be winding down by 11:30. I'm one of those people. I have really bad knees at this point in my dance career, so I would I go ahead and ice when I get home.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, do some ice, and if I'm doing some reading or whatever it is, and then about 11:30, I'm calling it a night. Usually trying to get to bed. So that's a very packed day. I feel like that was kind of a once or
Hmm.
twice a week kind of thing, but yeah, it's kind of every minute of every day you kind of packed and have to be somewhere doing something. So
Yeah, and how many times do you train a week?
So when we're in the height of our competition season, we have practice Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to 10, and then Sunday from 5 to 8. And then we also have that
Hmm.
one mandatory workout per week
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the
yeah.
team, and then you have your additional working out that you're doing by yourself. And if we happen to have a performance over the weekend or something, that's an extra 4 hours or something that you're putting into the team every week.
Hmm.
So and that is not as much as some other teams practice, but that's kind of as much as you can expect at the University of Texas with just how rigorous everything
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, and you said you have the one mandatory workout, but other things you have to do on your own. These other things that includes running, I think you said. Is
Yeah,
this other things
so
like stretching, mobility, or things like that?
yeah, I feel like our one mandatory team workout, especially like when we're in national season, I feel like focuses on three particular things: cardio endurance, stability, especially core stability,
Hmm.
and then
Yeah.
also like muscle endurance as well, right? Because if you're doing a 2 minute
Hmm.
hip hop routine and you're in a deep second plie squat the whole time, if you can't hold that the whole time, you're not going to make it through the dance. So I feel like it's kind of
Yeah.
those three big major focuses. And then just kind of based on the week, kind of depends on what the team workout is. And then kind of whatever you as an individual dancer need to be working on. If you know that your cardio stamina kind of sucks, like if you're not making it
Hmm.
through the 10 full outs we're doing at practice every night, if you're not making it through those and you're gassing out at the 145 mark, you need to be doing extra cardio, whether it's elliptical or running or swimming or something. Yeah, so I feel like I always tried to combine a couple extra days of cardio and a couple extra days of just like weight training, just to get a good, general fitness achieved
Hmm.
when I was in competition season. So it just kind of depends on the individual dancer, I feel like.
Yeah, it's undeniable that you're also athletes, especially considering everything that you do and that you have to take care of your body. When you think of a student athlete, it's like the basketball players or the football players, like the ones that you mentioned before, track and field, probably.
Mhm.
Is there a lot of difference? Because when I hear you talk, I don't hear that much difference, maybe. Or do you say like there is, like you also already mentioned, the way that the team is managed is different, but are there other things different, or is it actually quite the same at
Um,
the end of the day?
I feel like there's like two answers to that question. The first being that at the University of Texas, right? Like the dance team, because we kind of have that weird split thing from our Palm Squad.
Hmm.
We are
Yeah.
housed under the recreational sports department, whereas other D1A teams and other big D1 teams, right, are housed under
Hmm.
their actual athletic department. So I feel like, football players and basketball players at our school at least have more resources readily available to them, like that just come with being an athlete because, but they also have a more intense training schedule. They're training twice a day, 4 days, 5 days a week, and we're, not quite on that intensity.
Hmm.
So I feel like it's a little bit different there. They do have a little, bit more in terms of resources, and they have a staff to like actually take care of that kind of stuff for them, whereas we don't. They also have a lot of that paid for. We get like a small amount of money from the university to run our program, but it
Yeah, yeah.
takes a ton of money to run our program, flights and all that kind of stuff, so, and hotels and everything.
Hmm.
So we do an immense amount of fundraising that maybe football does. I know like football at UT is a huge source of income for the university. So I feel like they probably participate in, quite a few of their own fundraising activities. But I would say day to day, they just have more access to like a team nutritionist and a team doctor and a team physical therapist and team trainers and that kind of thing that we don't have. So what we have instead is like a list of resources. If you're injured, here's where other people have gone in the past, to a good orthopedic doctor if you need one, or we have more of like a list of suggestions, but we don't have that stuff like mandated at the university to like help us out
Mhm.
beyond what just like normal students have access to. But I will say, I feel like, part two of this answer is other teams that are designated as like under their athletic department at other schools, like the football team is, like the basketball team is, they probably have access to most of those things. So it's just kind of a unique
Yeah.
us thing more so than anything else.
Mhm. So you have less resources
Hmm.
than
Definitely.
the normal student athlete. Yeah, and also to that, when you do a competition, is there a selection made or can anybody participate? Or, yeah, because sometimes when you have a team of athletes, there are 30 people, but you only need 25 for this competition. So you don't know which five you will leave at home and which 25 will go to the competition. Is it the same for you, or is it basically everybody can always join us?
Well, yeah. So normally I feel like there's about 20, maybe 22 girls on our team. It's a co-ed team, but we haven't had a guy on the team in the time that I've been at the university. So, we usually have about 22 girls on the team. And for nationals routines, we really like to put about 15, maybe 16 girls on the floor because we want to have a
Hmm.
few alternates because it never fails. Somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to end up with a broken foot or something. And you're going to have to
Yeah,
throw
yeah,
an
yeah.
alternate in. And just those formations are so complex that it's not just like, oh, well, just make us, put the hole on center now, instead of at the end. It's like, no, we need someone to be in that space because otherwise this routine doesn't work. So we want a few alternates,
Hmm.
definitely. So we definitely do have a few people that sit out our routines, but it's not like it's, no freshmen allowed to compete at nationals. It really
Yeah,
is
yeah,
a
yeah.
completely like merit based thing. We start learning our competition routines. We have like choreography weekends in October. So we have
Hmm.
auditions like kind of in early October. We'll just pick a day at practice and be like, hey guys, auditions for the jazz routine are going to be on Tuesday. Auditions for the hip hop routine are going to be on Wednesday. And so our coach will come in and choreograph just like a combination. Everybody comes in, learns it, and we just come in groups. It's kind of very informal. Just come in and do
Hmm.
groups. My coach is the primary judge, but as our captain and our co-captain sit and give their advice and their suggestions, but our coach has like the final say in the selection process for our routines. So just because you're on the team, it's literally in our contract. One of the first things we send out to people once they make the team is just because you're on the team does not mean that you are guaranteed a spot at nationals. So we just do kind of a very informal audition process. And it's, how do they look doing the combination? How do they look standing next to the three people that we know for sure before this even started are going to be in it? How do they dance next to them? How do their tricks look? How do their skills look? How does
Hmm.
their how much, if hip hop, how much are they sitting in the pocket, are they on the musicality, all of those kinds of things. So I talked a little bit earlier about us not being a super like inner competitive team, but you know college nationals auditions are kind of the one time that our team gets a little like, I'm about to like dance you into the floor because I want a spot in the dance, because that's what our team does. So if you're not
Yeah,
getting to
yeah.
participate, like it's kind of a big bummer. Like I think when I was
Hmm.
a freshman, I was not a very good hip hop dancer when I joined the team. That was just not something that I had done a lot of training in. And so when I got to the
Yeah.
team and there was a lot of focus on hip hop, I did not make it my freshman year. I made our jazz dance, but not our hip hop routine. And
Hmm.
I ended up dancing at nationals, which was crazy, but I think I was like the fourth alternate. I was like last pick, bottom of the barrel, like so. But that's what it is too. Is like even if you don't make the routine, like there's a good chance you'll end up in it anyway. This year, because of COVID,
Yeah.
we didn't travel to our big national competition. We submitted a video
Hmm.
and competed virtually, but our whole team ended up competing because we had quite a few people quit earlier in the season just because COVID and I'm not even in Austin and those kinds of things. So I think we ended up with like 13 on the floor, which is kind of a small number to put on the floor. We had a few
Yeah,
injuries,
yeah,
so I
yeah.
think we had 17 on the team, but yeah, 13 girls danced for the nationals video, and we actually went physically to our regional competition. So girls that I think did not expect to dance this year ended up dancing. So it kind of just some of it is circumstantial, but yeah, there's definitely a selection process. Just because you're on the team doesn't mean you're guaranteed to be in either of the dances. So
You mentioned before that there are no guys at the team or were at the team when you were there, but from that I understand that it's allowed for guys or people of non-binary gender to join the team. So you don't have to be a girl to join the team,
yeah, absolutely.
right?
Our team is co-ed. There have been a couple of guys that are coming into their senior year of high school this year that have reached out to me as captain and been like,
Yeah.
hey, just wondering, is the team co-ed? I'm like, yes, please come join. We would love to have some boys on the team. We love that. There are definitely teams that have, strong male dancers on their teams. So
Hmm.
it's common in American collegiate dance to have men on your team. It actually bodes well for you. It's kind
Yeah.
of awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Before we finish for today, what are your future plans? You say that you said you're studying law. I guess you will continue with that
Yeah.
after this year.
Yeah. So
And maybe as
I'm
dancing, will you do something
dancing
still with
wise,
that?
yeah. So I'm graduating from the University of Texas this weekend. I'm going to law school next year. But dance wise, being captain of this team was kind of hectic and a little bit stressful because every
Hmm.
time I walk into a practice, I'm running the practice. So I'm kind of excited to just get to go to class and enjoy being a dancer in class and just, do it for fun. I think the one bad thing about dancing at a high level like I have for a long time that is immensely competitive is sometimes you forget that you actually love the art and the sport of
Hmm.
dance. So I'm excited to just be in a class and just enjoy being taught by somebody else and me
Yeah.
not running the class. So that's my plan, is to continue, but just kind of leisurely.
Yeah. So less a prominent place when it comes to coaching or
Yes.
creating
Yeah,
the
definitely.
routines. Yeah. Great. Yeah. And congratulations on the
Oh,
graduation.
thank you so much.
Before we say goodbye, people who want to get in touch with you, maybe if they want to know something more about the team or about you, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so my Instagram handle is _ Elena Smith _ if they want to talk to me personally about my experience on the team. But if you have just general inquiries for the team, their email is a good place to start. And it is letter U, Texas Dance at gmail.com is a good address. But you can find them on Instagram, on social media, on Twitter.
Mhm.
They have a website, so they're pretty easy to get a hold of.
Yeah, and for the listeners, I will put the links in the show notes so you don't have to memorize it or type it manually in your phone. Elena, thanks a lot for doing this. Good luck with your dancing, with law, with your continuing education, and that you can take a normal class instead of.
Well, thank you so much for having me and inviting me. Yeah, this was great. It's kind of a unique experience, I feel like. So it's fun to get to share it with people who care. So
Yeah, and yeah, thanks again for doing this. So hopefully talk to you soon, and good luck with everything. Bye bye.
bye.
If you want to know more about podcast, you can find us on social media. We are at DAAT Podcast. DAAT stands for Dancers or Athletes Too. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also check out our website at daatpodcast.com. I'm also on social media. Surprise, surprise. You can find me at This Is Slim B. Thanks for listening, and I hope you tune in again for our next episode. Take care. Kobo out.